Beach FM, locals talking to locals.
Welcome, Michael, to the Beach FM General Election Show. Michael, you are from the Attica project, but you were a farmer at the moment. Tell me about where you were brought up and how that has made you into the farmer you are today.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's great to be on the show. I was basically born into farming as a little fella on a dairy farm in Manukau, so that's halfway between Otaki and Levin. And it was always, our life was just dairy farming, like all around us with vegetable gardens. We've just always been a strong little rural community, a little rural school, and it's been just farming's been my life. I couldn't really work with the old man, which is sort of quite typical of farming families. Yeah. So I did do a little stint for about 16 years working in town, which I really, really enjoyed.
Doing what, Michael?
Well, in town I did all sorts of things. I did construction, and I ended up owning and running my own business as construction flooring and things like that. So I did a big job in the Wellington railway station, which was the big red floor that you walk onto in the concourse. Yep. That was a huge job. Yep. It was very challenging. And then I just basically came back to the farm, which is sort of very much coming home.
Okay, well that makes sense. But you and Mike Isles co-founded the Attica project, new to the political space. We'll get into some of your policies in a little bit, but why did you start the project?
Basically, I think we really need something new in the political space, and starting afresh is probably the best thing. So starting without this original structure, which is sort of around leaders, we've sort of gone for an egalitarian sort of approach where people with skills or interests or passion can come in and you're all on the level. And so all of those ideas, it's sort of like what we do in natural farming. Everybody's got an equal opportunity. And it's the Attica project's very much about that. We all take turns at chairing meetings. We've got rather than being like-minded people, we're all very different. Yeah.
So bring different things to the table.
Oh yeah, and we can have some good, scraps about things. But we're all mates.
Yeah. Scrapping, probably not a bad idea if you're going into politics. One of the main policies of the Attica project is water and soil. The UN, this is what I've read anyway, the UN estimates that we have 60 years of topsoil left. Without topsoil, we can't grow food, or grow it very badly, I'm assuming. In your opinion, is this figure accurate, and is it relevant for New Zealand? Like, do we have the same problem here?
Yeah, we actually got to a point where we've got, over the last 3 years, we've spent $5 billion into ag research, and only $3 million of that's been on soil, so we're a little bit behind the eight ball. Yes, we are. The only thing that makes us different from Australia is that we are in a moist climate. But in saying that, the real worrying thing is if we get boom and bust weather events, like I think we're on the eve of one at the moment, we get a lot of water washing off soil. So that's really the scary bit. We probably erode, the last actual estimates were, I think 2012, 119 million tonnes of topsoil is washed off into waterways.
Good grief.
And when you look at it today, for the amount of pine harvest that's happening, and you look at studies like the Iowa Daily Soil Erosion Project, where they say that 29 tonnes per acre of soil can run off clear fell pine trees, we're in for real trouble.
That is a very large figure. So you speak a bit about permaculture, regenerative agriculture and natural farming. Is that all tied in? And how would that change how we farm currently in New Zealand, and why would it be good for New Zealand, that change that you're talking about? with how you farm?
Well, the biggest thing about all of these movements is they all break down into little subcultures as well. So you've got carbon farming, you've got alley cropping, there's hundreds. The worst thing that we can do is regulate them down and try and put them all in one box.
Right.
The difference being that, again, we're going back to that divergent ideas. People really building their farming system themselves, or even in local labs. If we look at the moment, there's a lot of these little catchment focus groups that are trying to deal with the water problem. And this is really good. This is getting back to the old school discussion groups. I think the thing that we sort of miss out on is that we're not really seeing what's happening in farming at the moment, which is throughout the country, there is a huge amount of people that are just gathering together and having a look at what they, might consider a carbon farm or a regenerative farm, or all sorts of different ideas, and they're having little field days here and there and everywhere, and they're getting more and more people coming along to these, and these people, it's monkey see, monkey do. We're very copycat people. We see a good idea, we try and mimic it. And one of the biggest things in this is biomimicry, and that's really changing a culture. So one way of looking at it is permaculture is sort of like a permanent culture of farming. So that another way of explaining it is it's lazy farming. It's setting it up so that the whole farm just sort of works off each other and interlaces, and just the byproduct is food. The main aim is to produce soil and carbon.
So this is reducing the topsoil runoff because the soil is not being damaged or worked on, or tilled, if you like, so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got, I think the thing that really struck me as being a huge change of pace is when Greenpeace got in behind regenerative agriculture. For a long time, we've sort of regarded Greenpeace as the enemy in farming. And now you're seeing sort of two very, very big groups, farming and, if you like, social justice, coming together.
I guess the end goal is the same, or very similar.
Yeah, absolutely, because these are our customers.
Yeah.
And it's probably the biggest thing that is different in natural farming is that it is the customer and the farmer being agribusiness, not the input side of it.
And how does that benefit? Does that have an economic difference with the way that we farm now and the way that you're proposing or are actually doing? I'm sure there's farmers out there that are doing this. Is it economically viable? Is it good for the country from a fiscal point of view?
Well, there's two schools of thought. So the school of thought coming out of the existing status quo is that you're losing about 23% of your income. And that is actually not supported. Jack Heinemann from Canterbury University has done significant studies on what we call smart agriculture versus natural farming, and found that the absolute production levels are in a lot of ways no different, except you haven't got all those costs
right.
in the natural farming world, but you've got a persistence, and that's the biggest thing. You've got to look now at places like California, and you'll see big orchards, say, of walnut trees, and they're on bare soil. And they're on bare soil because the idea being that don't let any of that grass grow because it's going to suck the moisture out. Right. Which is back to front.
Well,
because
surely
it's the grass that keeps the moisture in the soil.
Yeah, because the soil is now bare and the sun's bearing straight down on it. Well, there's nothing keeping it together. Also not great for the bees, I'd imagine, because once the flowers have gone, what are the bees going to eat?
Well, yeah, that is the so the other big activist group, which was I think it was Project Rebellion or something like that. You know, they were very much concerned about the fact that a lot of the biodiversity is being wiped out. And which is true, because we use a lot of pesticides. I don't, but people do use a lot of pesticides and herbicides. We even use a lot of fly sprays and things like that, even at home. Municipalities spray all the sides of the roads with Roundup. And, you know, I'm not focusing in on Roundup. I'm just saying, you know, it's
just
any
happens to be one of the
herbicide.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So so that interferes with the whole life cycle, doesn't it? We think we're a little bit smarter than nature sometimes. So if I bring that back locally, then what are the key issues for the Otaki electorate that the Attica project can add their voice to or help change in that region? Because that's where you're standing in the Otaki electorate.
Well, for Otaki, the biggest thing is opportunity to be productive. So all of our woes are socio-economic. And rather than sprinkle fairy dust above, borrow, hope and spend, we believe that we are the food bowl. So does the government. In its national policy, it's made an exemption for vegetables to have no limit on urea. So we think that's bad, but there is an alternative. If we were to be able to go to natural farming and increase our productivity, and I guess mainly around the diversity. The biggest thing with climate change reduction is actually reducing the amount of food miles. And at the moment we import probably about 48 million in goods, not all food of course, but I think we import about $6 billion worth of food. And we sell about the same, so we've got no trade difference really.
Right. Yeah.
What Otaki is a unique microclimate. So it's cold enough, it's got enough frosts for saps, for killing some of the things that you do want, well, knocking back a lot of the things that you do want to knock back, because if you are frost-free, sometimes that's actually a bad thing. But for all our woes, there's a productive solution. I think one of the biggest things, we have to deal with what's in the water and not treat it like it's pollution, but take it back to being a nutrient that stays in the soil. So we have a huge problem with how we're dealing with our human waste. Our human waste currently in the Levin district goes out to a little lake called the Pot, or it used to be called the Lucky Pot, and then it's supposedly pumped into the sand dunes to be grown out in pines, which pines aren't the ideal thing for that. So if we go to natural farming and we ask natural farming what is the ideal thing, it instantly answers bozo bamboo. And bozo is an amazing product because it grows at 2 metres a day, and it is one of the world's best building products. So for flooring and for plywoods and for structural beams and things like that. And that becomes a productive solution. And it means that instead of long term that we're actually paying to pollute, we're paying to produce.
And it sounds like less water as well. Would that be true?
Yeah. It's processing it and the carbon drawdown into the soil, because I think that's the thing that we missed in the zero carbon bill. For some reason, we went out of the 2012 Paris Accord, which was 4P1000, which was to sequester 0.004% of carbon to soil per annum, which works out to about 20 tonnes per hectare. Now, once we do that, we can actually suck down, I think it's something like 300,000 litres per hectare of rainwater. And what we do notice, what's hard not to, is every time it rains in our area now, all our rivers turn brown, and that's the topsoil.
That's the topsoil washing away. Yeah.
So if we can do that 0.004, which is a measurable thing, you know, you can measure the carbon in the soil biannually is the best, and then if we've got an increase, we know we're in the right direction. But you can visually see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is actually the big thing here, is that taking the farmer back to being the caretaker.
Yeah, well, we can't unsee that now that you've explained that, if that's topsoil going away. You've mentioned to me before, we've had a chat before this interview, that you're saying that one of the benefits is that farming can become fun again. Is that why is that? Why would farming become fun again?
Oh, absolutely. Look, the thing is, it's in a monoculture, things get a little bit boring, where you're actually doing all of these different things. So even on our place here, we're doing nuts, we're trying to do sapwoods, we're even in my little garden, you know, I had a real tough time with slugs, so what I did was I went and got some ducks. And, you know, and all of these little things become quite interesting sort of adventures.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the ducks did eat the vegetables, but I've now managed to feed the ducks accordingly and, you know, protect the vegetables, but I don't have slugs anymore.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, the main thing I think that really sticks out that I probably didn't mention the other day is that women play an amazing part in regenerative agriculture, permaculture and natural farming, because they are more likely to think in a more diverse way than what we males do. And the fact that the farm is actually now being run in a more diverse thinking and it's more involved, it's a lot more fun.
That's absolutely fascinating. And we could talk for hours about that. There's a subject of that I think after the election I think we should come back to. So that is really good thinking for people who are out there with thinking about their vote. If that speaks to them. So that's great information. Thank you, Mike. I'm going to ask you some really tough questions now, though. That's good. Just to get you ready. They're quick ones, though. You have to tell me the answer that comes to you straight away. So, would you rather eat sweet or savoury?
Definitely sweet, unfortunately.
Would you rather be hot or cold?
I don't mind being cold.
Oh, handy for being out there on the farm in the morning. Would you rather be on the beach or in the forest?
Definitely the forest.
Coffee or tea?
Unfortunately, coffee.
Coffee. Cat or dog?
Definitely dogs.
Definitely dog. And classical or rock?
I'm actually become very classical.
Very good. Mike, it's been lovely speaking with you today, and good luck with everything going forward.
Yep, no, thank you. Thank you, Catherine.
106.3 Beach FM.